You're pledging versus the limit that you set, because you can limit it. You can say I can't. You say you want to spend $10 a month, it'll stop you at the $10. But that seems to have caused some confusion. Mm-hmm. So be aware that that's how that works. Yeah. It'll never just keep rolling on you.
Yeah. So all of that having been said, I think we're just gonna go ahead and get on out of here.
I think so. It's time we solved this one.
This is a blast.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by a cartwheeling Triceratops. Instead, it's supported by the generous contributions of people like you, our listeners, on Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Thinking Sideways to learn more.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
What?
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey everybody, and welcome again to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I am Steve, of course, joined by my lovely co-hosts,
Devin.
Well, that was good.
Wow, you two.
Yeah, okay.
We're both so sure we're the lovely one.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, for anybody who couldn't understand them, that one's Joe and that one's Devin.
You're pointing at the wrong people again, Steve.
No, I'm not.
It's okay.
Anyway,
nobody cares.
We, as always, have a mystery for you, and we actually have kind of a different mystery than we've ever looked into before.
More than kind of.
It's really
totally
different.
It's the scariest one ever.
Because it's a sports mystery.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny, I was talking to somebody today, and they said, "Oh, are you doing this because of the World Series?" Oh, crap, we really should have done this a while ago.
Yeah.
Because by the time this comes out, the series will be done.
Yeah, oh well.
But I guess for anybody who we hadn't told anybody yet, so now they know, we're doing a baseball mystery.
Yay!
That's right. Actually, this is a good thing because, after the World Series is over, baseball fans will be jonesing for a baseball fix.
They'll give them a little bit of a fix.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm okay with that, but okay.
As long as I can make money off them.
Okay. Well, our mystery today is, did Josh Gibson actually hit a home run out of, not in, but out of Yankee Stadium?
Meaning that he was in Yankee Stadium, but he hit the ball out of Yankee Stadium,
It
correct?
traveled outside of the stadium, that is correct.
Okay.
Right.
Outside of the walls.
And the original stadium, the new stadium.
The original stadium. Our story takes place in the 1930s.
Oh, so yeah.
Definitely not the one that was built in, but the new one was 2009.
Yeah.
Was open. So yeah, definitely not.
Probably not that one. Or else we have an even larger mystery on our hands.
Yeah.
We really would.
Yeah.
The reason that the story is really popular among baseball fans is because of the height and distances required to hit a baseball to actually get it literally out of the park.
Yeah, very few people have done it. I mean, in Yankee Stadium. In a smaller park, it's not that hard. But
Yeah. And in Yankee Stadium, our entire story is going to focus on that stadium. People have hit it out of the park in other stadiums, and Josh Gibson is known to have done that. But this is all going to focus mainly in when we're talking about those home runs. It's going to be Yankee Stadium. Mm-hmm. But the reason is that it's such an epic thing is in the old stadium, it was from home plate to the back wall 580 feet.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And the wall was this is a round figure, about 50 feet high. So that's a hell of a home run.
That's not nothing.
No, absolutely. And just so you know what, I got to tell people right now, I'm not a real baseball guy. I'm not a real sports fan. So some of this stuff I really had to figure out. And for people who don't know or don't have these things just automatically memorized, like some of our friends do, here's some numbers for you to kind of put a perspective on it.
Oh, by the way, for our foreign listeners who've never even heard of baseball, go to Wikipedia.
Look it up.
Just look it up.
I'm pretty sure they know.
Yeah.
From home plate to second base, so all the way across the diamond, you are looking at 127 feet. That's a standard number.
Okay.
To go from home plate to the end of the outfield, so of course there's then going to be bleachers from there on out, but that's a kind of a variable number, but it's somewhere between 290 to 400 feet.
So about 100 feet difference.
Yeah. And then after that, in Yankee Stadium, it's an additional 180 feet to then get outside of the park. So it's when you kind of hear those numbers, because I think most of us kind of have an idea of the size of a baseball diamond, but then you don't really think about how many feet that is.
Well,
And that's why
okay.
this thing is kind of an epic thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, we're like, 2-3 minutes into the story already, and I just realized that I screwed up and I didn't thank the person who suggested it.
Oh, really?
I did.
You're just not a good person.
You just don't appreciate our listeners.
Actually, I do want to say thank you to Jonathan who sent this in.
Yeah.
This is, I think you both know this, that I've been working on this for
A while.
6 months or something
Yeah.
like that. I couldn't let it go. I'd always be doing a little bit of work, get sidetracked, but I could never let go. And I think it's just because of the fact that as an American male, kind of hardwired to have a thing for baseball.
I think
though I'm not-
American in general.
Yeah.
I think even, like, I like soccer/football, depending on where you are. But I don't really like sports, but I can sit down and watch a baseball game. I think you can enjoy baseball even if you have no idea what's going on.
Well, the nice thing
The
about-
basic premise of it
it's
is
real
really simple. You
Yeah.
hit the ball and then you run.
Yeah, and then they try to catch the ball,
Right.
and then they try to
Or
like
hit you
tag
with
you
it.
out.
Or-
you know?
yeah.
Hit
Yeah.
you with it.
Yeah.
It's really simple.
Yeah.
So I think it's just we're lazy with our sports, and it's a really easy one that you can just sit down and go and, So I would say American romance
Okay.
in general. Yeah.
And I think that's why I couldn't ever put this story down.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went a little overboard, especially with the whole one that exhumed the body of Josh Gibson. I mean,
Yeah, and the
seriously, dude?
building the scale replicas of old Yankee Stadium.
Had to
And the
do
sugar
something.
cubes, I know.
Yeah, it was going to expire.
I know.
Yeah. Jeez, you two.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
All
let's
right,
so we
let's actually
gonna
get
talk-
on with our story.
Yeah.
Yeah, we probably should. So we'll start at the beginning. Josh Gibson was born in 1911 in Georgia.
Okay.
And then when he was 12, his family moved to Pittsburgh. And that's kind of where he gets his start in baseball.
Okay.
He was a big guy. He was like 6'2", 180 to 200 pounds, depending.
I heard that he was 6'1", 215.
Well, yeah, it depends on where it is through his career. But he was a big guy, and he was an athlete. He was good at every sport.
But he was gooder at baseball.
He was gooder at baseball.
Yeah, I think
Or
so.
he preferred baseball.
Or he liked it.
Yeah. Well, obviously we know which one he went after. But no, he was the guy who really was just good at everything he did. As we know, he liked baseball the most, so he was known to hang out at sandlots and participate in just about any pickup game he could. He was a catcher, which is not an easy position in my mind to play, because you got to squat, you got to catch 90-mile-an-hour balls.
Although I guess it's easier if you're bigger, probably.
That is actually one of the things that worked in his favor, because he was such a big guy. There's a lot of abuse, and he
But
was
all
good at taking it.
All that squatting through the game, that would get old real fast. But I think
That's why baseball players have such cute butts.
is that what it is. But I think Gibson also played some outfield positions too on occasion.
He did. It was
Yeah.
kind of we're going to put you in a position so we can put you in the game kind
Yeah.
of thing is really what it was. They would put him in, say, left field
Yeah, he seemed
for
to
a
do-
game.
He seemed to do
or
pretty well.
two.
He was not just a good hitter; he was a good thrower, good catcher.
No, he was definitely a fantastic hitter. I mean, the guy wailed on baseballs, as we're
yeah.
going to talk about. He is often referred to as the quote-unquote Black Babe Ruth, and he would make, this is a term that was around in the 30s, Ruthian hits. Although I really like it better when you come across where people say that Babe Ruth was the white Josh Gibson.
Yeah, I know.
He made Gibsonian hits, which you actually do see. This is probably the point where we should stop real fast and let everybody know. Story takes place in the 30s and the 40s. There was language around race that was used at that time that it's not what I would use, but it is the name of things.
We're just going to call things the things they were called.
Yeah, we're going to use the name of things, so be prepared. If that kind of stuff bothers you or you take offense to it, I apologize.
Well, no, there's
I can't change history, sadly.
I'm gonna give it away here. We're gonna talk about the Negro League,
The National Negro League.
the National
yes.
Negro League, which was, by the way, not a racial epithet in those days. It still really isn't. It's just
It was the league for black players.
Yeah, it was the word that preceded black. So
Yes.
yeah.
So here we go.
Here we go.
Yeah.
As I said before, Josh played in a lot of Sandlot games, and that got his performance of those games got the attention of a guy by the name of Composey, who was the manager for a local team, which was the Homestead Grays. In 1930, that's when they picked him up. At the time, the Grays were not part of the National Negro League. They were an independent team.
Okay.
Eventually, they would join the league, but at that time, they weren't. And that'll make sense why later.
Baseball was a little less structured in those days.
It was very little structure.
Yeah.
It was kind of a fly by the seat of your pants
Kind of a
game.
free-for-all kind of thing.
Yeah. Let's just explain how this works. So we all know today there's the major leagues, there's the minor leagues, and things like Pee Wee and high school and
You
all
also
of
have
that.
farm leagues.
Yes, and there's some farm leagues. Well, all of that wasn't nearly as structured at the time. And so what happened is there was a lot of these local teams that were just guys that liked to play baseball. And they would get together and they would be a team and they would travel to play guys in another city who liked to play baseball.
Yeah.
And there was no money in it. They were playing not in stadiums. They were playing in the local ballpark or possibly the Sandlot.
Farm leagues, man.
Yeah,
We had
totally.
one in Portland growing up. I don't think they were quite farm league, minor, way below minor. Guys who would actually legitimately fall running from base to base. But it was really fun to watch. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these
fun
are
for
just
everybody.
teeny little things, and like I said, most of these guys didn't get paid.
Yeah.
Luckily for the Homestead Grays, they actually did get paid, and that's one of the things that was really attractive to Josh to join the team.
Well, especially in the 1930s when there weren't any jobs. You know?
Yeah. And we're gonna go into some of the money stuff in a bit as to but it was a much better career in terms of money than a regular job.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Actually, he made good money
Yeah, he really did for the time.
for the 1930s. Yeah.
But let's I want to tell a story because I really, really like this story because I really find it funny.
Okay.
And that is the story of how Josh Gibson joined the Grays. So the story goes, the Grays were playing the Kansas City Monarchs, who at that time, it's 1930, they were in the National Negro League, and they were one of the top teams that year. I had to look it up again earlier, so I was just making sure. Later on they weren't. Teams would jump in and out of leagues or jump from one league to a next, so it gets a little confusing at times. So they are in the league. They're a top team.
The Monarchs.
The Monarchs. No, we're talking. Yes, this is
So
the
the
Kansas
Grays
City
are
Monarchs.
not.
The Grays are not. They're
The
not in a
Monarchs are.
league.
Got
So
it.
it's kind of an exhibition game.
Okay, look how good we are.
And
Yes.
this was a night game, right?
Well, that's the thing, is that according to the story, the Monarchs had a well-to-do sponsor who bought them their own mobile lights, so it was a night game.
Okay.
Okay, well, but they're 1930 lights, they run on generators, they're not all that great.
Yeah.
But it allows a bunch of people to come in the evening and watch the game, which means that you can make some money, so that's why they did it. Problem was, the lights weren't good enough that the pitcher and the catcher could see each other to read signals. If you don't know this in baseball, the catcher does hand signals to the pitcher to tell him what kind of pitch to throw. Really simple process, except that if you can't see what he's doing, you have no idea what kind of ball to throw.
Or to catch.
Or what you're going to catch.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a very good point, too, because that comes into play here. So we've got two guys who were said to have been playing. We have... I love the names that these guys get. The pitcher was Smokey Joe Williams, and the catcher was Buck Ewing, and they evidently, according to the story, crossed up their signs. So
They
it was
decided to only do two signs, or two pitches, right?
Yes, it was a fastball and a curveball.
Okay.
That was all they were going to do. A couple innings in, somebody switches it up. Wrong kind of ball gets thrown. Buck Ewing, who is the catcher, catches the ball barehanded.
Oh.
which, doesn't sound fun.
It's gotta hurt. Yeah.
Splits his hand open.
Ooh.
Josh Gibson just happens to be in the stands by the dugout eating a hot dog and watching the game, and Composi sees him, recognizes him, pulls him out of the stands, and puts him into the game to relieve Ewing for the rest of the game, and then from there hires him.
Wow.
Lucky break for Josh.
Yeah.
It is, if that was really the way it went.
Yeah.
It's actually not how it went. I love that story. And actually, you see a bunch of things where Josh always laughed at this retelling of how he joined the team.
Yeah, I think that it's partly true, though, right?
A portion of it is, yes. The first game that he played for the Grays, it wasn't actually an evening game. It was an afternoon game. And it wasn't against the Monarchs. It was against another team, which was a white semi-pro team.
Oh.
Smokey Joe wasn't the pitcher. It was actually another guy named, again, love this name, Charles Lefty Williams.
Well, they got the last name right.
They did. Ewing did actually split a finger open, and they did need somebody to relieve him. But the deal was, Posey had already told Josh he was going to bring him on the team and that he should be ready whenever he needed him to come play. So what happens is Ewing splits his finger. Josh is not in the stands. He's at another game that day. He's playing for the Crawford Giants. They put the Grays put one of their players in a cab, send him over to the Giants game. He gets Josh and he get back in the cab and go back to the Grays game, where he then relieves Ewing and then is on the team, but he doesn't immediately take the position. He slowly works into the position as Ewing slowly works towards retirement.
Yeah, but they didn't stop the whole game while the guy went and got Josh.
No, I think they had a relief catcher.
Hopefully so.
Either that or it was the end of the inning and they were at bat.
Maybe. That's a great point, because depending on the game, an inning can take a really long time. And who knows how far apart those ball fields were. I didn't actually think to look, and I don't know that I can find that anymore.
Maybe it was the 7th inning stretch.
Could be.
You never know.
It's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. It turns out I know some things about baseball.
I guess you do.
Yeah.
A few things more than I do.
What's that thing that they hold in their hands?
The bat or the ball?
Oh, the bat.
Or the gloves.
Yeah, that's it.
The bat?
Yeah. Okay.
Usually wood.
Yeah.
They hold the narrow end, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Good. I'm glad I got that right. Okay. So that's, like I said, that's the real story of how Josh got on the team. And before this, we were talking about the money part. So let's talk about the money a little bit, because it is kind of important.
Yeah, black players didn't really make anywhere near what the white players made in the majors. Did they?
No.
Fair, black people.
I was going to say,
didn't really make anywhere.
Anyone that wasn't white didn't make but a fraction of what their white counterparts made in any field.
Even some white people didn't.
That's true.
I mean,
there's a lot.
Race
There's
or
so
immigration
much
status.
Friggin' discrimination in this era.
Yeah. Although I kind of suspect that probably white people went to watch the white people games, and they probably were able to charge white people more for tickets. So that's probably a part of it. Right there.
There are things, and there's and I know this will come up later on, so we'll just talk about it now. At Yankee Stadium, there's a section of the stadium that actually used to be called the black seats.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were the cheap seats, because they didn't make as much money, so those were the people who would go to those seats because they couldn't afford anything better.
Yeah.
Those were the cheap seats.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it gives you kind of an idea. Here's some ideas of money in the era. So we've got, in the 1930s, two big names, Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. They were making between 30 to 80 grand a year playing pro ball.
Which is a lot.
It is.
Back in those days.
In 1930, 30 grand was huge money.
Oh, yeah.
I'd still be happy to be making 30 grand. That's saying something. 80 grand would be awesome right now.
It would. Now, these guys were the big power hitters, the top dogs. Even regular white players, though, were making good money. I mean, they were making a better living than a guy who worked in a factory.
Oh, yeah.
Easy hands down math.
Yeah.
Okay. if we cross the color line, then a guy who is doing a regular job would be making exponentially more than anyone who's not white, and the same thing applied for baseball. The league, the American League, the National League, the Pro League, whatever you want to call it, it pays. Josh did really well. I think Joe was mentioning that earlier. I think he started out right around $3,000 a year. He worked his way up to about $5,000 a year at the end of his career.
Again, a lot of money in those days.
A lot of money in those days, but that was kind of what he got from basically his normal season. He did a lot of stuff on the side and after the season to make money.
Oh yeah, those guys were playing all over the place, like Mexico, South America. I mean,
yeah.
Which, by the way, they were actually treated better than they were in America.
They were stars.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
There's, I really regret that I can't remember the guy's name. There was a guy who played with Gibson. I don't think he was on the same team, but he played against him before, and it was in the same era. And he actually left the United States for 3 years to play in, I think it was Venezuela. For 3 years, he played in Venezuela because it was just, the money was so much better. The conditions were horrible, and in the end, that's kind of what drove him back up to the States. But, he was like, to hell with it. I can play ball, I'm a hero, and I make great cash.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I go?
Yeah, they don't make me play over there in the Black People Stadium,
Yeah.
Although
In case anybody was wondering, $5,000 in 1930 is equivalent to $68,259.
Okay.
That's not bad.
No, that's not bad money at all.
$68,000 a year. That's not
It's
bad.
a very comfortable living.
Yeah, and we know he was supplementing his income, and also everybody else was unemployed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it didn't matter.
He was,
Yeah.
So he was doing great.
Yeah, he really was.
Oh, but I guess, okay, so in fairness, that means that Babe Ruth, was he the one that was making $80,000 a year?
Yeah, in 1930, I think he got about 80 grand.
80 grand is $1,092,148 annually.
Yeah. Although compared to what the salaries that players are getting these days, it's that's not even that significant. I mean, there's some of the contracts that some of the players and baseball players have today.
But this is in the beginning of baseball when it was, it kind of had coalesced into the sport that it is. That was the beginning of it. And Babe Ruth is the one who started. He was for many, I think 1930 to 19. I know some sports fanatic is going to tell me I'm wrong, but I swear it was like 1930 to 1936. Even though his wages steadily went down because the economy was just going down the tank, he was the top earner for that time. And then I think after that was when Lou Gehrig came in and superseded him as the top earner because he shortly thereafter retired. I don't remember exactly when Ruth retired at the moment, but that's why Gehrig was on his way up and started earning a bunch of money. And then he's followed by guys like Mickey Mantle and all these well-known power hitters. And those were the guys that kind of led the way. And each one was just getting a little bit more. And that's how we have the situation of several $1 million
right
contracts
now, MLB
today.
on average pays $4 million.
Yeah. Well, and also,
I'd take it.
I'm
not going to say no.
No.
Well,
me
another
neither.
thing we have today is we have TV, which brings a whole new element of money into the whole thing.
That's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does.
So nothing to sniff at for anybody.
No. I mean, like I said, Josh Gibson making good money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we've got a little off track.
Yeah. So back to our mystery.
This
here.
is good history, though.
Yeah,
it
no.
informs what's about to happen.
It really does. It really kind of informs a lot of it because the mystery or the legend is that either in 1930 or in 1934, Josh Gibson hits a ball during a game out of Yankee Stadium. That right there. It's either he did or he didn't. So our theories are pretty easy to keep straight. We got two.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that.
Yeah, me too.
And by the way, that's so Josh. Apparently, they did allow the black teams to use Yankee Stadium to play in, but they were playing each other, right?
They were yeah.
There was a lot of segregation happening at that point.
Yeah, we have things like Jim Crow, stuff like that. A lot of segregation. So we have the Yankees, the New York Yankees, and they were the white team. Then we had the New York Black Yankees, literally, that was anybody that wasn't white that was good enough to play for that team. That's the team they were playing on.
Uh-huh.
So that's who, like the Homestead Grays, would have played.
So I wonder what the turnout for, I mean, because I know that black people could go to white games. I wonder how many white people went to black games.
I actually get the feeling that there was a fair number. People who liked baseball would go, and because it's a National Negro League game, or, maybe it's just a couple of black teams, it's cheaper to go to.
I was going to say, but it's way cheaper to go
That's
to.
It's way
true.
cheaper to go
And
to.
probably the quality of baseball is not really less at all.
No, these guys were...
It's maybe better even.
They were pros.
Yeah.
They were absolutely pros, and that's the one thing for baseball that to me it's the biggest smear. And I know that there's a lot of bad things that happen in baseball, but to me that's one of the big smears, is that baseball could have been probably so much better if it had just crossed the race line about a decade before it actually did.
Let's be fair, not to politicize the issue, but a lot of things could have been way better
Had the
if
race
we
line not
would have
existed.
just crossed a race barrier earlier.
Well, see, but that's the problem, is that as I did the reading, I actually read not only the internet, but I got into a number of books, and a lot of these guys would get approached by the owners and managers of white teams, and they would say, would you come play with us? And this is, would you accept, what would you accept in pay? And they'd have these conversations, but they were such a regular thing. The black players just didn't care anymore, because everybody would make these offers and say, we're going to do it, and then walk up to the line and chicken out.
They never quite pull the trigger.
And never do it. And so these guys just, they just didn't care. Listen, stop bothering me. I got to go play ball. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, if you're say the New York Yankees and you're an all-white team, and you do pull the trigger and you get Josh Gibson and a few other good black players on your team, and your team is kicking butt, how can a Yankees fan not like that? Really? I'm sure there were some people who probably wouldn't have liked it.
I was going to say, this is still the 1930s. There's still some massive segregation. Jim Crow is in effect.
Well, Jim Crow was not in effect in New York, though.
No, that's true. But it precluded a certain behavior and view.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
That...
It's kind of like cutting off.
We don't have time to get into all of that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if you're a Yankees fan and you don't want your team winning all the time, you'd rather have an all-white team. Well, okay, you're cutting off your nose to spite your own face, I guess. But oh well.
Okay.
That's their business.
It is.
Yeah.
So for all of our listeners that aren't American and don't understand the weird history that we have with race, now you do.
Yeah. Let's see. We thought
Maybe we go through to the theories?
Yeah.
Let's do the theory.
Let's do the theories here. I know I've said this a couple of times, but I'll say it again. Josh Gibson was a phenomenal baseball player.
Do you have a crush on him or something?
No, I'm really impressed with the guy.
You're right.
I think so too.
But
he did have some pretty impressive stats.
So we are in totally blushing. No, we are totally in the he did it theory. So we are on theory number 1. Josh Gibson totally did it.
He did knock it out of the park. Yeah.
He knocked it out of the park. He played professional ball between 1930 to 1946, and he actually, all but 5 of those years, he played for the Homestead Grays. So he was at one team. He played for 2 teams.
Great.
This is not counting the games that he played out of the country or any kind of exhibition games that he might have done,
Sure.
But
and I'm sure
officially,
it's some of those little rinky-dink places out of the country, I'm sure he knocked it out of the park all the time.
oh yeah, he really did.
Yeah.
We got some of those stories too. This is the thing. He started playing in 1930. He was 18 years old. So he was at that almost that peak of physical development.
Yeah.
Guys between 18 to 22, that's kind of when they hit their strongest physically. And so he was there at the right time. If you go to the Baseball Hall of Fame, which I did, their website anyway, he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame of 1972. You're going to see that he's really good with the bat, as we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to give some baseball stats, and I will explain them, I promise.
Thank you.
Because if you don't understand them, they are very confusing. We have, according to the Baseball Hall of Fame, the number of 1,825. That is the number of times that Josh Gibson was at bat. He had 638 hits out of that, which means that he had a batting average of 350. And
Pretty good.
the batting average is the number of hits divided by the number of times that he was at bat. So 35% of the time he hit. There's another number called a slugging percentage. Josh's slugging percentage was 624. I'm not going to go into the actual math of that, but it's a calculation of number of hits and how many of them were a single, a double, a triple, and homers. And it gives a better determination of how good a player is when they're in the hot seat. Because if nobody's on the bases, doesn't really matter. But if the bases are loaded, that's really important.
Right.
So there's a lot of value in that kind of stat.
And baseball, I got to say, is one of the most statistically intensive sports ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, there is a whole bunch of stats we could go through and we're not.
People get really into this stuff.
I tried. Actually, as a kid, I played t-ball. I tried to play ball. I was the kid spacing off in the outfield because I was just kind of bored. I tried collecting baseball cards, but I couldn't ever figure the stats out and keep them all in my head, so I couldn't talk the jargon with kids. But you're right. There are people who just dig in, and they just know all these numbers, and they make total sense.
One of my closest, oldest friends is that way. She's a die-hard Boston Red Sox fan, and during all baseball season, pre and post season, anytime anybody's playing baseball, her Instagram feed is literally just pictures of her keeping score and stats. It's insane. I don't understand any of it.
No, I've never been into baseball that much. Back when we had a team here in town, I used to enjoy going out of the beer garden and watching the Beavers play and drinking beer with a.
It's too bad you missed the Rockies. I'm saying.
Yeah.
Myron Noodleman. If anybody listening remembers Myron Noodleman, please let me know because I need to know I'm not the only one.
You had a crush on him?
No, God no.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
Okay, but can you?
Oh, yeah, where we at
So
here?
let's get back.
Frame what
Okay.
his batting average means, really?
Okay. Josh batted a 350.
Right.
Really good, and I mean, that's a really good batting average. Babe Ruth, who, he's the guy that is kind of that golden standard because he always hit homers, though he actually wasn't that good of a batter. He hit, his lifetime average was a 342.
Oh.
If we look at the highest ranked player of 2014, his name is Jose. I'm going to do my best on it. I listened to it, but I just don't know quite. It's Altuve, I want to say is how you pronounce his name.
I thought it was Altuve, but I could be wrong.
Altuve, that may be it. I
might be wrong, but
anyway, he was the top ranked hitter of 2014, and he hit a 341.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you tell me? Do you want to be higher or lower?
Higher the better. So if you're batting 1,000,
so 350s.
The ball.
Okay.
So
that makes
if
sense.
you batted a 500, that means you hit one of every two balls that was thrown at you.
Okay, yeah. That's pretty good.
Or you hit a ball, not one out, but you hit a ball every time you're at half the time you were at bat.
Yes.
Yeah. And then if you're batting 1,000, which you probably heard that term before, that means you're hitting the ball every time you're at bat.
Every single time.
Every single time you're at bat.
So he was better than almost any. He was better than anybody, right?
Well, I mean, there's
Almost.
people that have better records,
But he was up there.
Really good. But there's a couple of things you need to know. First of which, the records aren't complete. And these numbers that his record or his batting average is based on, those are based on regulation games only. And I'll explain that a little bit here. So for the first part of the records, the Negro Leagues were really bad about keeping records. I don't know why or what caused that, but their records were really spotty and shoddy. And maybe it's because nobody, wanted to keep them because they didn't. I don't know.
It might be that people just didn't feel like it was all that important.
Yeah,
because they weren't going to move up to the majors.
Right.
Yeah, and so the records aren't kept. The second part of what I talked about there, which is the regulation games, that's actually really important. We've talked about the fact that players went south of the border to play games in the off season. They continued to train, and like we talked about, they got paid really well. Those games aren't going to be counted.
Right.
Teams would also go they would do exhibition games. They would do what was called barnstorming, which is just basically driving around and finding baseball fields and playing games, and they're completely off the books.
Now, what kind of a bus did these guys have, I wonder?
It's funny. They didn't have a bus at first. They eventually did get a bus, but there's stories about the fact that they had 2 cars that all of the guys were crammed in, and all of their gear was tied to the outside of it. So the entire team is in 2 cars, and they would literally race from place to place. This is a great story. So it's 1930s. They're dirt roads, and of course they're rutted like you wouldn't believe. 2 giant ruts.
Yeah.
And these guys are going so fast that the guy in the front is throwing so much dust that the guy in the rear can't see, and he drives off the road. They get the car upright, because of course it tips over, but they're packed in like sardines, so nobody gets hurt. They pick up the car, they get it back on the road, they're going down the road. About 2 miles later, they find a car in the